I'd like to talk through a few more best practice elements, and these will all be steps in a good audit response process. So first off, you should execute a confidentiality agreement with a software publisher. So that should go without saying, but you don't want to share any confidential data with a third party, including a software publisher, without having an NDA in place. What you want to do ideally is limit third-party involvement, so an agent or representative of the publisher. But if there are third parties involved, such as a KPMG, Deloitte, etc., make sure you have NDAs with them as well as the publisher. What you can do as a best practice is to leverage this as an opportunity to include further advantageous language. Make sure you talk to your legal department and you have support from them when you're drafting this agreement to send back to the publisher. Number two is a stepwise approach to baselining your entitlement. We talked about making sure you're firm on that baseline before you do data collection, but make sure you're doing this in a logical fashion. Is this a best practice statement? By this, be very logical in your progression here. So you want to agree on the legal entities being reviewed. So what's the scope of legal entities? Then what software product lines and specific products? And then after that, any applicable contracts. Make sure you do this before you start talking about the specific purchase transactions and to talk about any kind of baseline. So go from legal entities to product lines and products and scope, and then include any contracts. And this is before you start doing any data collection. You want to make sure you're just hitting those logical gates one by one. I mentioned this before, but this is kind of this third principle of license consumption and deployment recognition. Collecting this data should always follow that entitlement baseline. And that's going to be, I admit, that's going to be hard to pull off. The software publisher will push and they will say, we want to collect this either up front or we want to do this in parallel. Make sure that until you scope and baseline the entitlements, you don't know what data to collect. You don't know if it's going to be one product or 200 products or what have you. You need that entitlement baseline and that contract baseline before you can start doing data collection procedures. Otherwise, you won't have identified where you're collecting the data, what data you're collecting, what products you're collecting it for. So push back and be logical. That usually does the trick. Number four is baselining and draft reporting. So try to remain in control. Again, we want to push that tempo, and you don't just want to delay for the sake of delaying. If you do that and you say, oh, we don't really have a plan, but just push it back and push it back, the auditor will catch on, right? The software publisher will think you're hiding potential non-compliance or that you're not prepared to respond, and neither are kind of a good situation to be in an audit. But don't feel rushed or pressured to confirm license consumption or license entitlement baseline. Once you confirm those and you fix that with the software publisher, it's hard to walk that back and say, no, we want to adjust that or we want to amend this or that. It's really hard to walk back after it's been confirmed. So make sure that you give yourself in the process enough time to analyze, confirm any assumptions, logical conclusions, etc., calculations that the software publishers team have done before you agree to any baselines. Do not feel that pressure. Give yourself enough time to review is number four. And those are just a handful, about four of best practice steps that you should consider in your audit response process. Our internal angle point audit response process has these and a lot more.